It is no surprise to anyone that, as let's say, millennials, Gen Zs, and even Gen Alpha, that our lives are encapsulated in social media, whether we like it or not. So, have you ever wondered how you can turn that social media encapsulation into more of productivity based use of social media? That is what we will discuss in the Culture Corner today. Fast fashion is a big thing right now all over the world, mostly in the West, and we will discuss that and how that affects business and ourselves in the business buzz section. In life lessons, we will discuss the differences between motivation and discipline and why I think discipline is better than motivation. And as mentioned last week, we're going to discuss storytelling on the film focus section. All that coming up today on the TeensTake podcast. Before we begin, don't forget to like and share if you get value or information or even entertainment out of this podcast. Now, let's get into the Culture Corner. Picture this: you're cruising through your day, checking off tasks left and right, when suddenly you find yourself sucked into the vortex of social media, most probably Instagram or TikTok, lost in a sea of cat memes and viral videos. Sound familiar? Yeah, we've all been there. But fear not, but because today we're reclaiming our time and mastering the art of productivity in this very heavily digital age. Point one: the importance of setting boundaries. I'm not talking about those flimsy, I'll just check Instagram for 5 minutes boundaries. I'm talking about the kind of boundaries that would make even Fort Knox jealous. It's time to draw the line between work time and playtime and stick to it like glue. Trust me, your productivity levels will thank you. Second, maximizing efficiency. Let's talk about efficiency. Ever heard of the Pomodoro technique? It's like the productivity ninja secret weapon. You work for 25 minutes straight, then take a short break, then rinse and repeat with the various tasks that you have. It's like interval training for your brain, and it works wonders. The next point I'd like to make is finding motivation. 1 minute, you're on fire, ready to conquer the world. The next, you're curled up in a ball, binge watching Netflix and contemplating the meaning of life, or something along those lines. But fear not, because motivation is really overrated. That's right, I said it. Instead of waiting for that seemingly magical burst of inspiration, focus on building habits and routines that keep you moving forward, even when you're feeling less than motivated. Trust me, discipline beats motivation any day of the week. Next is cultivating healthy habits. Last but not least, let's talk about self care. Because let's face it, productivity isn't about grinding 24/7, it's about finding balance and taking care of yourself along the way. So do not forget to schedule in some me time, whether it's a quick walk outside, whether it's, you know, exercise or whatever may be, karaoke, music, because even the most productive people need to take breaks every now and then. And there's this very, very interesting quote from author and activist Maya Angelou that pretty much sums up what I'm trying to say. The quote goes like this: each person deserves a day away in which no problems are confronted, no solutions searched for. Each of us needs to withdraw from cares which will not withdraw from us. I think what I take from that, especially putting it in a digital context, is that sometimes you just need to unplug yourself. Sometimes you just need to remove yourself from everything, really, because on social media, everything is there: news and memes and reels and whatever it is you may be watching. Sometimes you need to take a step back and do something else, because if you go down the rabbit hole too much, getting out of it to try to be productive becomes extremely difficult. So, in conclusion, we know that social media is at times unavoidable, but it is up to us to be able to take a step back and see how it affects our productivity. We can self analyze and be able to decide whether sometimes maybe reading a book is better than scrolling for the next half hour. Maybe sometimes binging this series is not as important as getting some work done. And I'd suggest finding better ways to relax, because at the end of the day, looking at your screen the entire day is not a good thing, regardless of what you're doing. So I'd say go for a walk or run or read a book or listen to music, spend time with family, find a hobby that you enjoy that has absolutely nothing to do with social media. I'll give an example for myself. I enjoy writing, especially writing poetry. So I have a small book that I write my poetry in, and it just cuts me off completely from the world. Maybe put music in the background if necessary, amongst other things, including art, which is again just cuts me off from the world of social media and anything that's going on anywhere around the world. I wouldn't know, and that's not always a bad thing. And that's all I will say about that. Now, moving on to the business buzz section. Welcome to the Business Buzz segment, where we're taking a deep dive today into the fast paced world of fashion and its impact on our planet and the business space, but mostly on the planet itself. Get ready to uncover the truth behind the glitz and glamour of the runway. Fast fashion is like the McDonald's of the fashion world. It's cheap, it's convenient, and it's also very tempting because of those two factors. But what's the real cost of those bargain basement prices? It's a lot more than meets the eye. Let's start with a brief history lesson concerning this subject. Once upon a time, fast fashion was a slow and deliberate process. Designers will meticulously craft their collections, and consumers will eagerly await the latest trends. But then along came fast fashion. With its lightning fast production cycles and dirt cheap prices, suddenly everyone could afford a dress like a runway model, or so they thought. Now, the elephant in the room really when it comes to fast fashion or anything that has fabric and or plastic in it is the environmental consequences. The environmental impact of fast fashion. Did you know that the fast fashion industry is the second largest polluter in the world, right behind the oil industry? Let that sink in for a minute. From toxic chemical runoff to massive textile waste, the fashion industry is leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. And don't even get me started on the carbon footprint of shipping clothes halfway around the world just so we can have the latest trends at our fingertips. But wait, there's more. Behind the glitz and glamour of the runway lies a dark underbelly of exploitation and injustice. Millions of garment workers, predominantly women and children, especially minors, toil in sweatshops for poverty wages, often in unsafe and deplorable conditions. And all for what? So we can buy a $5 t-shirt and wear it once before tossing it in the trash? It's a sobering reality check, to say the least. But fear not, because there's hope on the horizon. From eco-friendly fabrics to ethical fashion brands, there's a growing movement towards sustainability and conscious consumerism. By supporting brands that prioritize transparency, fair labor practices, environmental stewardship, we can all do our part to create a more equitable fashion industry. But now that we've dealt with the environmental slash also social aspects of that industry, let's get to the business side of this before we conclude. We've already touched on the environmental toll of fast fashion, from textile waste to resource depletion. What about the financial bottom line? I want you to consider that the fashion industry generates $2.5 trillion in global revenue every year, with fast fashion brands accounting for a significant portion of the total. However, the true cost of fast fashion extends far beyond that price tag In fact, it could be double, even triple that, with hidden expenses stemming from environmental degradation, social unrest, and supply chain inefficiencies. At the heart of the fast fashion model lies a relentless pursuit of profit, driven by high volume, low cost production methods, by outsourcing manufacturing to countries with lax labor laws and minimal environmental regulations. Fast fashion brands are able to churn out clothing at breakneck speed and rock bottom prices. But at what cost? The human toll of this relentless pursuit of profit is staggering, with garment workers often subjected to, as I mentioned before, exploitative working conditions and meager wages. One of the biggest challenges facing the fast fashion industry is the lack of transparency and accountability in the supply chain. With complex global networks spanning multiple continents, tracking the journey of a garment from factory to store shelves is no easy feat. As a result, many fast fashion brands struggle to ensure ethical labor practices and sustainable sourcing throughout their supply chains, leaving workers and the environment vulnerable to exploitation. In recent years, consumer awareness of social and environmental impacts of fast fashion has grown significantly, leading to a surge in demand of ethical and sustainable alternative, alternatives. As consumers become more conscious of the true cost of their clothing choices, they are increasingly seeking out brands that prioritize, again, these transparencies and fair labor practices and environmental stewardship. The shift in consumer behavior is forcing fast fashion brands to reassess their business models and adapt to meet the evolving demands on the market. So, am I saying that fast fashion is bad? No. All I'm saying is that you should take to consideration how much of it you're actually spending on. And I know that that doesn't really apply to everyone, but for those who do fast fashion from multiple websites all over the world, get a $2 shirt or for however little it may be, you have to think about not only what I have mentioned, but you also have to think, how often will I wear that garment? There are many statistics that have shown that most people only wear about 20% of their entire wardrobe. And if you just keep filling in clothes, that number could eventually decrease, where you find that the clothes you've worn in the last month are 6% or 10% of your wardrobe. And there you have it, a closer look at the business side of fast fashion industry and also the environmental and social aspects of it. As consumers, we have the power to drive positive change through our purchasing decisions, supporting brands that prioritize ethical and sustainable practices. Together, we can reshape this industry as a whole and create a more equitable and environmentally responsible future for all of us. Now, we shall move on to the life lesson section. Today, on the life lesson segment, we shall be discussing the lifelong debate between discipline and motivation. Get ready to discover the secret sauce for success and unlock your full potential in whatever area that may be. Discipline and motivation, two sides of the same coin, yet vastly different in their approach. On one hand, we have motivation, that fleeting spark of inspiration that propels us forward in pursuit of our goals. On the other hand, we have discipline, the steady, unwavering force that keeps us on track even when motivation wanes. But which one reigns supreme? Let's find out. First point is defining discipline. First things first, let's get clear on what we mean by discipline. Discipline isn't just about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to, it's about cultivating habits and routines that align with your goals and values, even when it's not easy or convenient. It's about you showing up day in and day out and putting in the work, even when you don't feel like it. Second is overcoming challenges. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, challenges. Because let's face it, life isn't always rainbows and sunshine, as they say. There will always be days when you're tired, stressed, and just plainly unmotivated. But that's where discipline comes in. Discipline is the steady hand that guides you through that storm, keeping you focused and grounded even when the going gets tough. What about cultivating discipline? So, how do you cultivate discipline? Well, it starts with setting clear goals and creating a plan of action. Break down your goals into manageable tasks and then commit to tackling them one step at a time. And remember, consistency is key. It's not about making massive changes overnight, it's about making small, sustainable changes that then add up into something bigger over time. But what are the rewards of discipline? Now, here's the best part, the rewards. Let me tell you, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing your hard work pay off. Trust me, I know. Whether it's acing that exam, landing your dream job, or finally achieving that personal milestone, discipline is a secret sauce that makes it all possible. So the next time you feel tempted to skip that workout or procrastinate on that project, remember discipline is the key to unlocking your full potential. I was talking to my friend the other day and I had asked the question, how do you stay motivated? The answer he gave was, there's nothing like motivation. If you feel demotivated, push yourself using discipline. It's about going on, surpassing your limits. I found that very interesting because for the longest time, I'd always thought that motivation was similar to discipline, but the difference between discipline and motivation I found is that discipline is a constant and motivation is not. You can lose motivation, but you can't necessarily lose discipline. You can be undisciplined, but the discipline is still there. You're just not using it. But for motivation, you have to make it or wait for it to show up for you to be able to do things. So, again, motivation is not as good as discipline. So, exercise discipline and not necessarily rely on motivation. And that is all I shall say about that. Now we shall move on to our last segment, film focus section. Today on the film focus section, we shall be exploring the importance of storytelling, especially in regards to film and movies. What makes a movie truly great? Some may argue it's the dazzling special effects, or the star studded cast, or the pulse pounding action sequences. While all these elements certainly play a large role in making a movie as spectacular as it can be, there's one ingredient that stands above all the rest, and that's storytelling. My first point is the heart of the story. At its core, storytelling is about more than just plot twists and dramatic reveals. It's about connecting with the audience on a deeper level and evoking genuine emotion. Whether it's a tale of triumph and redemption, or a journey of self-discovery and growth, great storytelling has the power to transport us to worlds beyond our imagination and leave a lasting impact on our hearts and minds. Second point, modern trends. But here's the million-dollar question. Are modern movies living up to the storytelling standards of their predecessors? Unfortunately, it seems that in today's fast paced world of blockbusters and franchises, storytelling often takes a back seat to the spectacle of CGI wizardry, let's call it. Instead of rich, nuanced narratives that challenge and inspire, we are bombarded with shallow plots and recycled tropes and remakes and sequels, etc. But fear not, for all hope is not lost. Let's take some classic examples. Take a trip down memory lane and revisit some of the timeless classics that set the standard for storytelling excellence. From the heartwarming tales of Disney's golden age that I have talked about severally and will talk about more in the future, to the groundbreaking masterpieces of Pixar and DreamWorks alike. These films remind us of the power of a well crafted story to captivate and inspire all ages. Charting the course. So, where do we go from here? How can modern cinema reclaim its storytelling throne and deliver the kind of cinematic experiences that left us breathless or spellbound? It starts with a return to the basics, a renewed focus on character development, thematic depth, and emotional resonance. By embracing the timeless principles of storytelling and daring to push the boundaries of creativity and innovation, we can usher a new era of cinematic greatness. I have always believed, as somebody who is studying filmmaking, that story always comes first. And I believe Bob Iger, the current president of Disney, said the same thing when he was rehired recently. I believe the story comes first. I believe that story is the backbone of everything related to movies, films, series, etc. Because once you lose the story, everything else has nothing to hold on to. The effects will mean nothing unless there's a motive behind it. The characters will have no clear path on where to go. So I believe that the importance of storytelling is undermined in recent times. I'd say maybe the last 2 to 3 years is really been undermined, and we have seen the advancement of the best animation technology we have ever had in history. But some of the most basic, boring, recycled stories, and I don't think those two go together. So I believe by just stripping down to the basics of story before anything else will bring back the movies that we all know and love, but with a modern touch. And there you have it, a closer look at the importance of storytelling in movies and the critical role it plays in shaping our cinematic experiences. So, next time you sit down to watch a movie, remember to look beyond the special effects and star power and pay attention to the story that lies at the heart of it all. Until next time, stay tuned, stay storytelling, and keep exploring the magic of cinema with the TeensTake podcast. Thank you so much for listening. All relevant links will be in the description below. Like, follow, subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram for updates. And I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.